Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin Show. It is your Friday, the Traders Week Wrap-Up, or Trading Week Wrap-Up for the 23rd of February. Here we go with our details for today. Now, today's graphic, I tried to make it representative of today's show. After yesterday's, I got a lot of some positive, some negative comments regarding my Rivian purchase. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and kind of some of the justification for it, not to try to sell anybody on it, but at least the logic that I was thinking when I purchased it. So we'd have a little bit of EV space to talk about. Obviously, the overall market price charts, as you can see here in the graphic. What I don't have represented in the screen, though, I asked AI to create some cryptocurrency digital asset pieces because JB has been asking me by emailing me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. He's been saying, hey, I want you to answer my questions on Bitcoin. Relax. I will get to, when you guys send questions, just so those who might be new to the program, you understand, when you send me an email, which I love the emails, it's great, it builds content for the show, I typically don't respond via email, right? Those questions that you ask, I will bring up as part of the show talk track. So today is going to be driven by a lot of that and different questions pertaining to electric vehicles, cryptocurrency. People have questions about Nvidia and is like, is this the blow off top? It could potentially be. And of course, crude oil, but nothing really talk worthy there for crude oil. So let me start with listener questions. I want to make sure I get to the EV ones first. So here's the first one that came through from John last night. John says, I still don't get why you bought into Rivian. Why not Tesla? Look, you could certainly go buy into Tesla. I think if you look at investments in a specific industry segment, in this case, we're looking at electric vehicles, but it would be the same if I looked at a market segment such as semiconductors or retail stocks, right? If you're going to buy into retail stocks, do you want to buy into the Ross stores and the TJ Maxx's and the Gaps that already are, multi-billion-dollar market caps? Well, you certainly could because they've established their business. However, you might want to focus on some smaller, micro cap stocks that have the potential to grow. Which ones are popular with your kids? Those types of things will slowly help bring up, hopefully that stock and get you a much greater rate of return over time. Now, it doesn't mean that TJ Maxx or anything like this is a bad stock. It just means they're already so big. What's the growth potential for them going forward? I look at the same way with the EV space. Why not buy Tesla? That's what John asked. I got no problem buying Tesla. Just in my opinion, Tesla is already the juggernaut. Here's Tesla's price chart. Not doing so well recently. But let's go look at a longer term chart here. Let's say a weekly time frame. Tesla has already had its massive growth phase. And it's not to say that Tesla is done. Certainly it could continue to go up and go up and go up and go up. But a bulk of its gains are already made. Now, when I look at somebody like Rivian, you look at this chart and you're like, this thing looks terrible. This looks absolutely trash on Rivian. I mean, this weekly candle for Rivian is one of the worst you're going to see. However, there are some circumstances here that have me wanting and I'm interested in Rivian. So if you look at what's gone on with it, it was supposed to IPO at $87. Its actual initial opening day price, let me get the daily on here. The opening trade on Rivian when it IPO'd back in November 10th of 2021, its opening price was 106. It was supposed to be 87. That's what they agreed upon. So it already was trading at a multiple of what they thought it was going to do. Not 87, 78. I put that red line on here just so you can see, where it was supposed to go. And that's what the analysts expected is worth about $78 a share. And here we are now at 10, right? 10.07. Woo! Might get executed on my puts I sold in that one as well. You didn't buy it to own an EV company long term. You're right. I'm not owning it to own it to a real long term one here, but I am thinking of buying this and holding on to it as a value play, feeling it's going to come back. And there's several reasons for that. Number one, and we talked about this on yesterday's show, is they have a huge deal with Amazon, and they are producing these vans. There's two different models they produce. You can go on YouTube and find some really cool videos where they walk you through these new electric vehicles. And Amazon is building out the infrastructure at their facilities around the Rivian truck. Now, it's not exclusive, but I think they've already delivered 18,000. There's talks about being 100,000 of these ones. That's a huge source of consistent income for Rivian. Even though they're struggling financially right now, this might be something that, at least stabilizes the losses for a little bit. So that's part of the reason. But the other part here is I wanted to show you the different investors, like who's invested in it. I look at the EV space, and while I haven't gone into like Lucid Motors or Lee Motors to find out where the big institutional money is, it's very clear that there is heavy institutional involvement. I believe 65% of the shares of Rivian are owned by institutions. That right away tells me there's big hands at play here, big money. And some of the names are pretty impressive. If you look here at the top list, Amazon owns 17.2% of Rivian. T. Rowe Price has 12.66%. Global Onyx Group has 12.37%. Ford, 9.44%. Interesting one here is BlackRock. BlackRock has 5.37% of Rivian, and Vanguard 4%. Capital Research Group has almost 4%. So there's, in my opinion, some seriously big money backing this and big names. Now, when you look at that valuation, I don't know when the allocations were made by these respective firms to buy those chunks, right? When did T. Rowe Price buy their 12.66%? When did Amazon buy it 17.2%? It wasn't at the IPO price. It was later on as prices were declining. I think Amazon inked it in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So they certainly aren't buying into that $78 price, but they're in at lower prices. And if I look at what Amazon could do, that's kind of the main one of the ones I like. The Amazon side of this is Amazon could benefit greatly by having a car company. It's just one more piece. If you look at different economic structures, you have horizontal integration, whereas you capture every piece of your supply chain, every piece of your process, or you have horizontal, where you just keep developing in the same layer. This gives them vertical integration, because now all of a sudden their shipping can be taken care of with their own vehicles. So instead of buying vehicles from anybody else, they produce their own vehicles, and they custom design everything to fit Amazon's needs. Great. Then they could also, work on those retail products. If anyone's going to become a buyer here, I think Amazon is, because they already have 17.2%. They could easily sway, BlackRock. BlackRock would love it because it's now run by Amazon. That means it'll most likely go up in value because of Amazon's productivity and efficiency of scale. Amazon is a fleet of planes. They might be soon. Those FedEx trucks are too big. Amazon has trucks that have better size. Yeah, Margaret. And it's interesting is there's two different models. There's a 500 and a 700 van. The 700 looks hideous to me. The 500 is more reasonable. But, they get like 180 miles per charge. They're fast charging. And that's kind of why. So to John's question here, why Rivian? I have no real exposure in any of my long-term accounts to get into electric vehicles. Tesla, I've been trading a little bit here and there, but mainly for short-term growth or income. With Rivian, I think it's a little bit bigger picture item. I think if they continue to slide, I think they'll definitely become a takeover target. Someone will come in and bail them out, because if institutions have 60+% of the stock, those guys are going to do whatever they can to cover their own asses. They're not going to let it fail like that. So it just seems like a prime candidate either to right the ship through the layoffs that they're doing and cost cutting, or somebody else comes in with some money and pops them up, which will pop that share price. So I don't feel, I know I got an email from someone today saying, "Oh, you're down 12% today on your shares you bought yesterday." I'm not even worried about it. I'm not worried at all about it. I think that you look at the historical price, and the lowest price it ever achieved was back in April of this year, and we're now below that. So to me, this comes to become a value play at some point on Rivian. They have a retail product, you have an institutional product. Keep shorting, still bearish on it. That's cool. Keep shorting it. Are not EVs over-dependent on government subsidies? I can't speak to all of them. I know that a lot of them are getting government subsidies. And I think that, when you look at where some of those perks will be increased, it'll be on commercial fleets. And there's a lot of pressure from the Biden administration to convert a lot of these vans from gas to electric. You have also the U.S. Postal Service, is in a push to convert their vans. And if that becomes the main focus of Rivian and they cut their commercial or their retail vehicles, so be it. There's plenty of money in commercial vehicles in the United States. So I'm okay with that. Now, to John's question here, says, I still don't get why you bought into Rivian. Well, it's because, again, I think it's one that's a much smaller market capitalization. I think it has a much bigger growth percentage prospect than Tesla does at this point, because Tesla is, so massive. Are they going to double their value in the next 6 months? I don't know about that. Could Rivian double in the next 6 months? Absolutely. I think it's much easier for Rivian to double their value than a Tesla to double their value at this point. Now, there's other companies out there. Buy more? No, Pepe. I'm good. I'm not going to go. I have a number in my head. I'll never forget Fred Smith laughing about Amazon. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people laughed about Amazon. I laughed about Amazon back in 2009. So I have a number in my head, Pepe, of the maximum number of shares that I will have of Rivian, and that's 4,000. Right now, I only have 1,000. I may have another 1,000 by March 15th if I get below that $10 mark, but I have a $4,000 share limit, which would be about 40 grand. So about 40 grand maximum I'll put into Rivian for an intermediate swing trade that could be 6 months, maybe even more if it really starts to move. But that's that one. There's other vehicles that I really like as well. No, Rob. There's a stop loss in there. It'll be a percentage of it. So it'll probably be a 20. For me, it'll be a 25% on that trade. So I'll have once I acquire all the shares that I have of it. If I lose 10 grand in that position, then it'll be done. But it won't. I don't believe it will go to zero. It'll get bought up before it goes to zero. I haven't looked at the book value ratio, but they have infrastructure. They have assets. Don't think it'll go to zero. It'll get sold off to somebody else. So, what other ones? The other one that I'm interested in buying, and I actually have, I've got about 10 grand freed up in one of my quote-unquote gamble accounts. I'm actually thinking about buying, I'm taking a flyer, and I may do this next week. You guys might remember, I really like this company called Canoe. Not because of the functionality or the business aspect of it, but I actually really like the vehicle itself. And Canoe was working, let me bring it up here for you. It's called Go EV. Now, when I showed this to you, I don't know, 6 months or a year ago, I was saying you can't really buy this one right now because the trend is so strong to the downside. Here's Canoe. This is Go EV. I mean, this is a horribly bad chart. Remember, this was a SPAC, and I've had trepidation about SPACs simply because the valuations can be way out of line, and I think it's all up to the people who created the SPAC to begin with. They're the ones that make all the money. However, at a certain point, does Canoe have value? And I think they do. If you look at their vehicles, they're actually doing postal vehicles. They're doing post office stuff, and they've got some contracts with some other people, which are not big, but to create delivery vans, again, competing with Rivian, which I think a lot of the U.S. fleets for delivery and stuff is going to switch over to EV. This is one where I'm looking at it 11 cents going, man, 11 cents? Is it worth it for me to throw $1,000 worth of this and get 10,000 shares, close to 10,000 shares of it? I think so. So I may throw in a few grand in this one next week. I want to see what happens. It had a hammer formation today on the daily candle, and I've been watching this one every day. Nothing has given me a buy signal for months, and I've kind of been waiting. This is one that I will probably add to my gamble account here, and I'll let you guys know. It most likely is going to happen next week. It's a puker. Yeah, technically, this thing's trash. And the only real concern I have is that it would go bankrupt, which is why I'm putting in my gamble account. This one I do think could go belly up and go bankrupt. But I like their product. I don't know, you guys remember I showed it to you. It looks like a space vehicle. I dig that one. So, John, the other question to your EV question about why I'm not Tesla, I typically don't like to go in if it's an area that I'm not really comfortable with. I will go into ETFs. I think that an ETF is a better way to get exposure. However, there's not any really great ETFs in this space for EVs. So, for example, I could look at some of the top ETFs. The top one I can think of is going to be IDRV or CARS or DRIV. But, let's look at bar chart here real quick, and I'll show you. This is one of the more liquid ones. This is DRIV. It's a GX autonomous electric vehicles. Well, you notice I'm not actually buying electric vehicles in this. The number one holding is Nvidia. Number 2 is Intel. Number 3 is Google. Number 4 is Apple. Number 5 is Qualcomm. I got to get all the way down here to the 8th largest thing in there until I get to Tesla, right? So even though this looks great on paper, I'm not really getting exposure to electric vehicles. Now, what about some of these other ones? Like, let's do this is DRIV. Let's go IDRV. And this would be a safer play to get exposure to it. But again, I don't even know what some of these holdings are. Rivian is on here, but that's like the 10th largest holding. And it even says NA on a lot of their holdings. So this would make me skeptical because I don't exactly know what they are holding. And then Lucid, Tesla is also on this list. And what about KARS? That's another one on this, the Electric Vehicle and Mobility Fund. This one, similar. It's got a lot of holdings that you just don't know what they are. And that makes me nervous about these ones. What I'd love to see is, I'd open up an ETF component list here and it would say Tesla, Rivian, Lee Motors, Canoo, NIO, BYYDD, Bid Motors, etc. So there's quite a few that I think don't get enough representation. So when I look at that list of potential opportunities, I'm thinking, EV ETFs might be the way to go, but unfortunately, I just don't see anything that has the mix that I'm looking for. Therefore, on that list, I'm looking for specific car companies. Now, there's a couple. Canoo I like because Canoo is out of California, U.S. based, so is Rivian. Well, when you look at some of these other opportunities, Lee Motors, by the way, comes out with earnings next week, which will be an interesting one. Here's Li Auto. Oh, this is one out of China. I don't feel very comfortable buying a Chinese automaker, and it's just my belief that they modify and cook their books, and I don't know if I trust them. You look at NIO, another darling Chinese one, right? NIO has been on a downward spiral since 2021. It had that huge surge up and has really done nothing but go down ever since. Does that mean NIO is done and going out of business? Probably not. At some point, this might become a buy as well. And I think that this looks a lot like the cannabis stocks. I think it was LaRusso in here I think you're always asking me about cannabis stocks. And, you had that huge move up, that gigantic surge up in cannabis stocks, and then it feels like they've been drifting lower ever since. At some point, you're going to get some of them fail, some of them consolidate, and then you'll have bigger companies at the end of this that will thrive and flourish. I think that's the same thing in the EV space. And at this point, you kind of go for the leaders in this space, which Rivian, Lucid, Tesla are the leaders in that category. So it's definitely speculative. I made that point that, this isn't like a slam dunk trade by any means, but it's been an area that I want to get into, and I haven't really made that push to get into EV. And now I think that Rivian represents an opportunity, whether it gets acquired or has a nice rebound based off their restructuring and cost-cutting efforts, which tend to help a company perform better. Now, it's only 10% layoffs that they're going to be doing at Rivian, which is not that great. Give me a 30%, and we'll really talk about some nice gains. W Patterns, will it bounce back up? That's a tough one, Rob. The only way you know that it bounces back up is if it does bounce back up, right? A double bottom could become a triple bottom, and it could just fall right through it. So those are always after-the-fact pieces. Could you trade it from that perspective as a double bottom? And honestly, the delay here, Rob, I forgot which one we were talking about when you called out a double bottom. If you're looking at NIO, technically it's a double bottom right now. Here's your chart for NIO. You have a double bottom? Yeah. But based off of that, I don't know if I'd feel that comfortable buying here. All right. Jeff says, can't wait for Tesla to recover. Well, you might have to. As Tom, one of our regulars, has always pointed out, he says their valuations were just way too high, and it'll come back down to a normal automaker valuation, and makes sense. Right now, it doesn't really feel like there's anything exciting going on with Tesla. It feels like, just a slow drift down here. If you're following Elon Musk on Twitter, I used to really like what Elon Musk puts out there. Now, all of a sudden, it feels like he is a victim of his own celebrity status, and he's just doing nothing but polarizing political comments on Twitter now, which is really disappointing. It was nice when it was just factual stuff. Now, all of a sudden, there's stuff has just become very political, and I don't know. I don't go onto social media to listen to people's political rants. There is no hammer. There was a hammer on Go EV. That's what I was pointing at. It's a beautiful looking hammer, by the way, on Go EV. Now, the only thing here that would make this one better for me is if I saw a huge surge in volume, but there isn't one. This thing, Go EV puts out some tremendous volume. Of course, it's also, 11-cent stock, but I will probably buy some of this next week. Again, I got a few grand in an account that I may jump onto this one, but I'll let you know when that one happens. All right, so that was John's comment on EVs. Hopefully I answered that one, John. There's a lot of different things out there to get into. Certainly you could buy into Tesla, but I really feel about NIO. Okay, thank you. I really feel like there's other opportunities in this space that might outperform. And I'm just looking for percentage gain. While I do like Rivian, I like their exposure to the delivery van system. I love the fact they got big institutional involvement. To me, that's good. I think that has a better chance of bouncing. Yeah, here's your NIO, the double bottom. Someone stop it from dropping? There could be. I'm not a financial analyst, and I make no claims about being one. I'm a trader, so I'm really looking for an opportunity to buy something cheap and sell it higher, in a nutshell, right? However, there are people that are so much smarter than me, and their whole life is around looking at financials. I assure you, Rob, and others, that there are people from those companies that I mentioned, that they're, from Ford, T. Rowe Price, BlackRock, Vanguard, they've already got a vested interest in this. These guys have no problem doubling down. And they'll look at those balance sheets. They'll look at the income statements and earning statements and say, how is this company really doing? Will these cost-cutting measures help Rivian survive? If we can pull a Warren Buffett, and let's say when they run all the numbers, they go, Rivian's valued at $15 a share. I'm just making hypothetical. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying, what if they ran those numbers and they go, Rivian's worth $15 a share, and here it is at 10? Then any one of these firms would go to their bosses and say, based off everything we're looking at, this thing is worth $15. It's trading at 10. Let's buy as much as we can. We'll put a floor in at $10, right? They can do that, absolutely. Will it happen? I don't know. Obviously, now my bias is to the upside on Rivian, but I can't hold on to that, right? There's a certain amount that I'm willing to risk on this trade, which in this case will be 10 grand. And if I lose 10K, so be it. But I think I'm going to be all right in this one. We'll see. Again, time will tell. I'm going into it knowing that there's a specific dollar amount that I'm willing to risk on this trade, and that will be it. What about Lucid, says Maya? Sure. So I have not dug into Lucid and seen their institutional involvement. Let's join in at the bottom. I know. I do not want... You guys make your own decision on what you want to buy into. I'm just letting you know what I do. This is not financial advice. This is not solicitation. I am not here to tell you what to buy. I'm just letting you know what I am doing. It's my money. And if you want to make any of these things, if you ever decide to trade anything we talk about on the show, it is at your own free will. I am not encouraging anybody to buy into Rivian or Lucid or Neo or Canoe. I'm saying what things that I like. And when I make a trade, I'll let you guys know. But know that there could be losses on that, right? Especially in this sector. This is a very, very volatile industry sector, so be careful. So Lucid. Lucid has that same basic picture. It's another SPAC, right? All these SPACs start out at $10, and it's huge surge up to $66, and now all of a sudden falling apart. Lucid has a bunch of vehicles on the road. I don't find them as attractive as the Rivians. I think the Rivian's a much better looking vehicle. Plus, I don't believe that Lucid has exposure to the commercial side of things. They're more retail oriented vehicles. So I don't have as much love for Lucid. Simply because Rivian has this dual face. You've got the retail public vehicles we get on the roads, but then you also have commercial stuff. That's twofold here. Whereas Lucid, I believe, is much more focused on just the retail vehicles. If that demand slows down, then Lucid's dead. Rivian can be pulling in more money from the Postal Service, from Amazon, or anybody who wants to do delivery here. And I think that gives them a big competitive advantage. So if I had to choose between the two, even though Lucid's at $3 and Rivian's at 10, I would there's no chance I'd buy Lucid. I would go into Rivian just based off those two. All right. So that's one piece to talk about today. What are some of the other questions that came in? JB has been asking me repeatedly about Bitcoin, and he's frustrated that I did not answer his questions when he emailed them to me. So just understand, when I get an email from you, most likely I'm not going to send you a direct response. I usually use those comments for the show. So he asked me a couple different things, and they're both really good questions. JB says, if you were to put your money to invest, where would you put it? Gold, Bitcoin, or both? Well, before I get into that, forgot to cheers you all. Cheers. Happy Friday. The U.S. government has ruined EV business in the short term. I kind of agree with that. And the rules keep changing, right? The goalposts keep changing on the electric vehicle markets and what the rebates are and which ones get it. It's certainly not helping. So JB's question, gold, Bitcoin, or both? I guess this really depends on your objective. If you're saying I've got all my capital and I'm going to put it in these, that's my only choices, I would mix it up. I would certainly put it into a combination. But I would never take my portfolio and expose it to one asset, whether that's Bitcoin, gold, whatever. I would make sure that you spread that around a little bit. So in the traditional portfolio allocation models, let me see if I can bring one up here real quick. Let me go to typical investment, MENT portfolio breakdown. I'm just doing a search on Google for typical investment portfolio breakdown. I'll click on images over here, and there you go. This is a good one. This is from Charles Schwab. Let me see if I can make this full screen for you. Hold on 1 second as I bring this up. And the reason I bring it up is there's so much, cookie cutter advice out there. And here you go. Here's your graphic. So if you look at this is the typical, it just drives me nuts. This is such a horrible, no, just whiskey. It's a whiskey today, Pepe. This is a horrible representation, in my opinion, of what you're being told as a consumer. It says you have 3 portfolios here. As a moderate investor, age 60 to 69, you're looking at having 60% stocks, 35% in bonds, and 5% in cash or cash investments. I disagree with that. I think as soon as you're getting 69, I think you should be much more conservative in this. Keeping 60% of your portfolio in bonds or in stocks is kind of aggressive, in my opinion. However, what I would say here is, let's assume we're going to go to this moderate one, which is the left-hand side. And it says 35% bonds, 60% stocks, and 5% cash. Well, I agree with the 5% cash. I agree with that. I think you should keep, a good amount in cash for emergency purposes. The 35% in bonds, I don't think that's actually a bad idea right now, simply because you can get 5% yields for short-term treasuries and you lock in longer term if you want at a decent yield. What I would argue is that 60% in the equity markets. I would split that up. And at a minimum, I would say 5% of that should be in commodities. And that would be gold, silver. I would also, for me personally, because I'm more aggressive, I would add another 5% in there. And I would say that's for cryptocurrencies or digital assets. And depending on your level of risk tolerance, I might increase that a little bit. I personally have a lot more invested in cryptocurrency than I do in gold and silver. Actually, that's not entirely true, because I do have a bunch of gold or silver ETFs, which I still have more in crypto. Yeah, I have a lot more in crypto than I do in my silver exposure. But I would spread it around into areas you're comfortable with. So long story short, JB, I would put it in Bitcoin. I would also put it in gold. The big challenge for me is gold, because I don't know how much gold there is. I forget what the number is, but they say you can fit all the gold in the world in, like, I don't know, a few Olympic swimming pools. Like, there's not that much physical gold. With Bitcoin, I know exactly how much there is, and that's where I get my excitement from, is because there's no ambiguity. There's nothing that's obscured data-wise. If all of a sudden gold gets to the point that it's $50,000 an ounce, they're going to find gold veins popping out of the world that we've never knew existed. Money will pour into gold research and mining, and therefore they'll extract more, which will push the price of gold down. So you have this, supply and demand equation that has a bit too many unknown variables, in my opinion, with gold, silver, platinum, palladium, these types of metals. One thing I like about the crypto space is, for the most part, it's very clearly defined. You know exactly how much is there. So for that reason, I put a bit more into the crypto side of things. Do you hold physical junk silver? Just a few coins. Yeah, not a lot. I've got a handful of old silver dimes and half dollars and dollars in my safe deposit box, but not a lot of physical silver. I have more physical gold. I have several 1 ounce gold coins. Most of those are rarity coins. So it's not like I'm buying an American Eagle from 2005. Who cares? I want the 1886 stuff, that's rated. So I have some collector ones. Yep, there you go. If gold, it should be in gold coins, in my opinion. So while I agree with Big Eb here, it's actually a great question. You didn't ask a question, Big Eb, but you pose a question, which is, how do you buy gold? Which gold would you be in? Should you buy physical bullion or coins? Do you go with a gold ETF like GLD? Do you go with the futures market, right? Which one do you choose? Well, I would say it depends on what your goals and objectives are. If you are more of an active trader, then trade GLD or futures, because you have the liquidity and the spreads are really tight. The challenge with what Big Eb says here, and my view as well, because I have gold coins, if we look at the price of gold at present moment, gold's trading at, let's say, $2,050 an ounce. If I take my 2005 American Eagle coin and I go down to a numismatist and say, I'd like to sell this to you, it's selling $2,050 as the market price. Is that coin dealer going to buy it from me at that price? Absolutely not. He'll look at it and probably go, I'll give you $1,800 for it. And you're like, but wait a minute. It's trading at $2,050. You're discounting it $250, and he's going to go, that's what I'll pay for it. Because if he buys it from you, he's got to go try to sell it at $2,049. That spread, that difference, is the markup. So when you're dealing with physical gold, you will always be on the opposite side of that spread if you're going to try to sell it to somebody. And to me, you have to compensate for that. So if the market moves up enough, then okay, I'm fine paying a big spread. So I do hold the gold coins. I'll probably die with those gold coins in my possession. Honestly, I don't plan on ever selling those. There's no reason. I didn't buy them with the intent of selling those coins for a profit. It was taking some capital I had free at the moment, buying gold coins worth it as a way to distribute my net worth and then hold different assets over time. So should one, rally or crash, gold historically has been that store of value. So I do like physical. I love going through and just holding them, looking at them, just thinking about, this one I have from 1876. I got a couple really old ones, and you look at them, you're just like, man, this thing is way older than I am. And just the history about them, I like that, their rarity. Do you own gold or silver bars? I don't. No. It has been a goal of mine. I think at some point in my life, I will own a gold bar. But I want a 400-ounce gold bar. I don't want the ingot. I don't want the tiny one. I want the big one that, I don't know if anybody here has anyone in here ever held a gold bar? I'm not talking the tiny ingots. I'm talking a 400-ounce gold bar. The big ones you see stacked on pallets. Let me real quickly just show you here. Gold bars. Has anybody here actually held one of those? They are so unbelievably heavy. They are really, really heavy. I'm going to type in here 400 ounce. The problem with it is 400-ounce gold bars are expensive, obviously. If yeah, there we go. There's the gold bars. I remember I walked in here. There's a good picture of this guy holding one. That is a 400-ounce gold bar. You hold one? Man, foot breakers. I held silver, the ones at Knox. Exactly, Pepe. That's it. These gold bars right here, they don't look that heavy. They are exceptionally heavy. It's shocking. You grab it and you're like, wow. It doesn't look like it's that heavy. But, a 400-ounce gold bar trading currently at 2,000. That's $820,000 for that one bar. I would love to, at one point, be a whole bar. Exactly, Jeff. That's funny. Merlin is a whole Bitcoiner, but not a whole gold bar. I would love to be. I think we would all love to say, I got a gold bar. The challenge is that people will find that gold bar and steal it. Right now, I got to worry about safety and security. I had a trader, I still have a trader friend of mine who knew a guy who was an old floor trader in Chicago, who will remain anonymous at this point, that bought gold bars, these gold bars. And he didn't know where to put them. So guess what this guy did? He would paint them black and gray so they looked like just regular bricks. And they were lying around his house as doorstops. That's $1 million doorstop. What are you doing? Oh, man, I would have a problem inviting people to my house. I'd feel really uncomfortable with that. But I would love to own gold bars. Absolutely. Why not? It's physical. I can hold it. Tom says, I stood next to a pallet of gold slugs at the factory in Rhode Island that made, wow. Yeah, I didn't get to stand next to it, but when I went to, when I was in college, we organized a trip to the San Francisco Federal Reserve, or San Francisco Mint. And in the Federal Reserve building there, they had pallets of gold. There was one room that was pallet after pallet, and it was just jaw drop. I almost is that real? We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, 10 feet from my eyeballs of just gold bars. That was just really, really a cool thing. Inventory every time you have a guest, right, Pepe? It's yeah. Well, the thing is, Pepe, there's no way that a guest could leave your home without you knowing that they stole the bar. Because if you try to hold that thing, that's a lot. It's let's see, how many pounds exactly is that? So 16 ounces in a pound. So no, it's not 400. Let's see, 16 ounces times 400. And my math is doing me shady. 400-ounce bar. 16 ounces, there we go. So it's 400 divided by 16. My math was a fuzzy. Divided by 16, that's 25 pounds. If they tried to hold that in their pocket, you're going to see their jacket lean to the side, their pants are going to be sagging, look like a gangster rapper, even with a belt on. You'll know if they took it. But yeah, it would definitely be inventory control every time someone came by my house, for sure. You can hold the outside of a gold bar, but what's on the inside is everyone's guess. Correct, Martin. And that's an interesting thing, you know, it's about trust, which is why if you're buying gold and silver, you better do it from somebody who's reputable, because there's been many stories over the time. Lead has a similar weight profile as gold. So what they will do is either paint them gold or dip them in gold repeatedly to get a nice gold layer. And you're like, oh, it's a gold bar. You scrape a little bit off the top and you go, oh, it's gold. Yeah, but the inside 90% is all lead. So yeah, it's tricky. Got to make sure if you buy this stuff, you buy it from somebody that is reputable and that you respect. And when you do that, you're paying a higher price. You're paying a higher price for that one. So JB, long-winded answer to your question. Both. I would say not only gold and Bitcoin, but I'd also add in other metals. Merlin, when the parties you have at your house, how do you know what your guests walk off with? I don't invite people to my house I don't trust. So if you set foot in my house, it's because I trust you. It's not, usually I don't let a lot of people in my house, but I don't have gold bars lying around my house anyway. Most of my stuff of value is in places that you would not be able to get to. Oh, there you go. But good question. Okay, second one from JB. He's more about Bitcoin. So I know this is going to bore some of you guys, but let me just go into this one because I think it is relevant. It's going to require another sip here. And real quickly, let me go back and check here. There were a bunch of questions that came through that I had not had a chance to get to. I saw Tom, you asked me one earlier. 10% cuts are normally cutting the people that are overpaid or underperform. Employment ads follow. So yep, exactly. And going back to the Rivian, or really any company that does layoffs. Yep, absolutely. All right. So this is the next question from JB. Can you please tell me what you feel is the best place to buy Bitcoin? I know nothing about Bitcoin other than you and many others feel it will be going higher. Yeah, I definitely feel it will be going higher over time, and there are some things that may prevent that from happening. But the best way to buy it, in my opinion, would be you either buy. Number one would be you buy it from somebody that you know very well. So if you got like a really good friend and they've got Bitcoin that they want to sell you, you might be able to get it cheaper because they're not going through exchanges. So you might be able to buy it from them. That would be number one for me. If I had friends that were selling Bitcoin, I'd have no problem with that because you're my friends. It's okay. Number two, and this will be number one for most people, exchanges. So go to someplace like Coinbase. And you got to understand that there's different ways you can buy it at Coinbase. They will hose you on different, I'll show you right now how Coinbase, in my opinion, is gently stealing from people. And it's not Coinbase exclusively. It's Kraken, it's Binance, it's Gemini. They all do this. But here is, real quick, let me switch this over to Coinbase. There you go. Watch this sleight of hand. You guys want to watch some magic? I may have shown this to you before, but here's magic right in front of you. All right. When you open a Coinbase account, this is your typical screen that you see, and you're like, oh, well, cool. I can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tether, and BNB. This is a live, real account, by the way, so this is not a simulator. There are no real simulators for crypto. If I were to buy some Bitcoin, oh, look, make it easy. Big buy button. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is this number right here I'm highlighting in blue. Oh, it went back to that. It's 50,891, right? 50,891. If I click this buy button, it's like, great. I want to buy one Bitcoin. I'm going to do one full Bitcoin, right? It should cost me 50,000. Right here, you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, 50,882. Okay, great. So I go over here. I go preview buy. Oh, it's outside my limit. Dab nabbit. All right, let's just do $1,000 worth of. Come on. There we go. I'll do $1,000 worth, just so you can see this. $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. Right now the price is 50,882. And you can see it says right here, 50,882. When you click preview, 51,394. They've added on $500 extra to this transaction. $500. Isn't that crazy? Not only that, but they also charge you a fee to do that. That is highway robbery, and they're taking advantage of people that don't know what they're doing. If you weren't proficient in this, you would pay that. Now, how do you get around that? Well, you would go to their advanced platform, which is this one here. And same thing, if I wanted to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? There's $1,000 on the right-hand side. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. It's not going to work. If I want to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, I can buy it right now at this price here, 50,860. So it's just a way for you to save money, and you got to be careful when you do it. But the real way you do it is you buy on an exchange. And right now in the United States, if you are looking to buy in America, you have 3 choices. You have Coinbase, you have Kraken, and you have Gemini. You don't have Binance anymore. The reason you don't have Binance is they do not connect anymore to ACH. They're not a money dealer. They can't do anything in dollars. So you can't send money there in dollars unless you wire it, but they can't cash out into dollars and send you that via ACH. You can't do it. It's not good. So you go to something like Coinbase. I saw a question here from Rob about commissions plus fees. Yet not only do they widen the spread on that, but they are charging me a commission. So there are fees associated with it. The good news is Coinbase's fees have dropped significantly over the years. Kraken's have always been pretty low, and Gemini have been lowering. So it's pretty much even if you use, this is the big asterisk, it's pretty much even on all 3 of those platforms, Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini, if you use their advanced platforms. If you use their retail platform, prices are all over the place, fees are significantly higher. Over time, you'll spend a lot more money than you need to. It's crazy how much more you'll spend. So once you do that, JB, this is where you would buy it. Buy it on an exchange. And then once you accumulate enough, you go to your portfolio here. I have just a little bit of crypto here. Most of my stuff is on different drives. You would click on your Bitcoin. So I only have a couple $100 worth of Bitcoin here that I use for my crypto classes as an example. And then I would just send this. I'd click the withdraw button and I would send it to my wallet. And right here, this is one of my Bitcoin wallets. So I could just add the wallet I want to send it to. And in this case, I would put it on what's called cold storage. We've talked about that many times here. That's like a Nano Ledger, which is this bad boy. Nano Ledger or a Trezor or a Keep Key or a Bitbox. There's all kinds of different ways to store it. But buy it on an exchange and then get it off the exchange and keep it in your possession. There you go. So Tom says, if Big Ev and me are in your will, give him the metal coins and the whiskey. Just leave me the crypto coins since they're just computer codes. Oh, sure. Yeah, right on that. I'll get right on that, Tom. I think I told you guys this. When I got COVID the first time, when was it, 2021? Late 2020, I think I got COVID. And, at that point, I was like terrified. And I think if we all rewind back to 2020, the way the media portrayed it is like, if you got COVID, you're going to die. It's just, you're dead. And I remember I was terrified. I was absolutely panicked. I sat down, I was starting to write out my will, and like, I realized what a nightmare it's going to be. If I pass away, it's a nightmare for anybody because I have so many, not just trading accounts, which they'd have to rectify all that, but savings and investment accounts, but then my crypto stuff. I mean, I had crypto at one point on like 17 different exchanges and marketplaces. And now I'm kind of reining it in, whittling it down. I've got it right now at about 8 different places, but have to outline where everything is at, what are the seed phrases, and all of a sudden it's like, now it's documented. Here's a document that has my seed phrases on it. There's tricks around that as well, but I won't bore you guys with the details there. So JB, long-winded answer. Buy it on an exchange. It's just like buying a stock, the same basic process. If you use advanced platforms, you can negotiate prices, right? There's a difference. There's a bid and the ask price. You can negotiate that using these platforms, which is great. Your word passwords? Yeah, Oliver. But I'll give you one little golden nugget here on that. So when you have a seed phrase is typically 24 words, and those 24 words are your access. I mean, that is the most important thing, is the seed phrase. It's not this device. It's the seed phrase that allows you to access that. You lose that and you're done. So what I did is I have 23 of the words written down, but one of the words, it's written in my document, and says, and this is going to be going to my father most likely, it's a word that he knows the answer to. It's a question that he knows the answer to. It's a one word, and that word is the missing word. So even if you were to get this copy of a document, you wouldn't be able to access it. And you could guess, you could go through the other 2,048 words that are available and try to drop them in one by one, which you could definitely do. But I'm trying to do what I can to not have everything all in one place. What I should do is move multiple words. But all right, long-winded answer there, JB, but hopefully I appreciate your patience. I did the Terrivian one. What else have I got to get to today? That was it. Let's run through what actually happened today and work our way from the bottom to the top. I'm going to start things off with crude oil. Crude oil has been banging its head against that ceiling. I told you I've been bullish on it. I still feel bullish on it, even though we're down 2.7% today on crude oil. clearly it has difficulty at that $79 mark. It's just been banging its head against it. It can't seem to get there. I know, Martin. I know. But most people aren't that smart. And, you know, the probability of you finding this document and then being able to get that one word, most people aren't that smart. So it could definitely be forced. Yep. But yeah, I'm not doing anything that's connected to the internet when I create this document, Martin. I'm definitely being very careful. And, you know, you guys should never write down. There's a woman I interviewed years ago who, absolutely phenomenal crypto girl. She was just great. Now she does internet security. She's all about privacy. And I think I'm going to ask her to come on the program to talk about that and just the ability for your devices to spy on everything you do and what you need to do to protect yourself and your information. Like when I was writing that will out, my internet was turned off, documentation was turned off, and I want to make sure nothing was tracking this. Now, when you are writing anything online, that could be seen by anybody at any time. So be really careful about what information you share, especially when you're writing on any electronic device, including your phone. You should have a list of beneficiaries to all your brokers. I do. It's been done. At least the beneficiary side of things has been done. No, and it's funny because all of a sudden I just dropped. I completely forgot what her name was, and she's great. Oh, not Catherine. I'll remember. I'm gonna bring her back up. I'll bring her on the program. She's really great at privacy stuff, and for some reason my brain is just not wanting to get what her name is. Oh yeah, be careful with Brett Johnson, right? Did you watch that, Andres? I'm encouraging everyone to watch that just because it should make everyone realize how all your information is not safe. It's scary. All right, Tom says, I ran into a guy with a HODL shirt at the airport. He was heading back east, so... yeah. Yeah, if I could just remember what her name is right now. For some reason, I'm like trying to dig for her name, and I cannot think of her name off the top of my head. I don't know why, because I interviewed her before, and she's just a great interview. But I'll remember. All right, back to the bottom to the top. I've watched Natalie. I feel like she's kind of a corporate crypto girl, but yeah, I've watched her a little bit. Yep. All right, Bitcoin, 1.8% slide. Again, technically, are we worried? Not really. The yellow box at the top here is the one that I'm concerned with. If we get below that, then we'll probably see more downside movement. But I don't see that happening. Not anytime soon. There's a whole issue going on with Craig Wright right now. Craig Wright is the guy who is claiming that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. He's an absolute fraud. There's no way this guy is Satoshi Nakamoto. And all the guys that were friends with Satoshi back in the day are testifying against him. But that might create some volatility for Bitcoin going forward. Other than that, not worried. 10-year yield dropped today, right? We had a nice little decline of 1.73%. We're currently at 4.25, which is great for the housing market, but I don't think that that's a signal that we're going to have a big crash here in the yield. It was just one day of down. It's been pretty much up for the past, since February. This whole month has been very, very bullish to the upside. So I think that this pullback is going to be short-lived and then more move to the upside. Yeah, it is a great interview. So good. Here's your NASDAQ 100. Tiny little shooting star today. Tiny little shooting star. Nothing. I don't think it's anything crazy, but someone asked about a double bottom on NEO. Well, look at the NASDAQ futures here. For you have basically a double top and a shooting star on the right-hand side. This is a really bearish sign. And maybe this is a blow off top. Maybe we saw with Nvidia's earnings was that last, euphoria surge, but I'm not optimistic for next week's trading activity. I think you're going to see a market sell off here based off of that double top from technology and a shooting star. Love it. Keep going. Keep going to the south side here for this one. So that's my expectation for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll see what happens next week. S&P also has a shooting star. So we've got a couple patterns I like. Of course, you guys know my rules. It's got to open above that and then sell off. And we'll see if that happens. Third place, dollar index. Pretty much unchanged. We had that hammer formation yesterday, which we talked about. And we're saying, look, if it gets above the high of Thursday, which that high was 104.13, it did not today. Really just kind of sideways action, open and close right about where it's at. So no big directional change from the dollar here. Given its trend from December of last year, I still think you're going to see this thing continue to move up to the north. Second place, Russell 2000, which did not have a good week. right? Your S&P, your NASDAQ, your Dow all had fantastic weeks. Great moves up for those broad market indexes. Russell, wah, wah. On the week, actually showing down pretty good numbers. If I go from last Friday's closing price to last Friday to where we closed at today, Russell is down about 0.1%. Now that's a huge difference when you look at what the S&P did. If I go through last Friday's close to where we closed today, gain of 1.44%. So all in all, great for everybody except poor widow Russell didn't make it today. And then lastly, gold. Again, we talked about this. It just feels like it's in this beautiful range-bound pattern. We're right back into the middle of it. Tom, I hope you're doing spreads on GLD because it has just been bouncing back and forth in this range. Great opportunity for those of you who are sideways market traders. Now, as far as markets go for Monday, nothing special happening on Monday with regards to earnings. Am I right? Yeah, there's really nothing going on Monday. Next week, we do have core PCE price index. I believe that's either Wednesday or Thursday. That'll be a pretty big one, so keep your eye on that, but we'll talk about that on Monday's show. Again, thank you, JB, for your patience on your questions, although you're probably so upset at me, you're not going to watch the show anymore, so there we go. But I did answer your questions. John, thank you for the Rivian question, and for all of you who asked questions on today's show and interact with me. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So that said, I'm going to wrap things up. Cheers. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Go do something fun. Email me if you have a topic for next week. I will see if I can. Her name is, I don't know why I cannot remember her name off the top of my head. I want to say it's Natalie, but it's not. It's not Natalie. Ugh. All right. I will see about getting you some guests on the program. If there's things that you want me to discuss, email me, TraderMerlin@gmail.com, or put them down below any of the YouTube videos. That said, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Cheers. Do something fun. I'll see you on Monday. Take care.